conservative talk, you've come to the right place. With the radio chick Annie Ubellis, Sutton Sense is live Tuesdays and Fridays, and join us in our chat room. The call-in number is 917-889-3675. Check out our website, which is the name of the show, Sutton Sense with a dash in the middle, 7-sense.com. Sit back and enjoy the right way.
Well, I don't know why that opener played, because that is not the correct opener, Curtis. Let me play the correct opener that was done by George from Firefox News.
Welcome to Southern Sense Talk Radio with your host, the radio chick, Annie Ubellis. Join Annie on Tuesdays and Fridays at 2 p.m. Eastern Time with an open chat room full of her regulars. And yes, you can even call in. Call 917-889-3675. That's 917-889-3675 to be a part of the action on the phone line. Not able to listen live? Not a problem. You can always catch Annie, the radio chick, and Southern Sense Talk Radio podcast in archives at southern-sense.com. So sit back, relax, and enjoy Southern Sense the right way.
Well, welcome to Sutton Sense here on Blog Talk Radio, High Plains Media, SHR Media, Kinetic Hi-Fi, The Fix FM out of Charleston, South Carolina. I'm your hostess with the mostest, Annie, the radio chick, and that was my new opener done by George of Firefox Radio. And I have my debonair, my oh-so-intellectual co-host, Curtis C.S. Bennett. Curtis, we ready to rock and roll today?
Hey, I certainly am. Let's go.
Well, George did an excellent job on that remixing of the opener. I like it better than mine. And I don't know why it didn't play at the startup, because I made sure it was selected as the opening. But we'll have to go back and check to make sure that I didn't screw things up, which is possible. Oh, man, we got ourselves... Yeah, he did a very, very good job, and I really got to thank him for that. Want to welcome those that are listening in on their smart devices, as those that are in the chat room. I want to say hi to all of them, and those of you. Gee, you really, this is Friday. You know, everything that can go wrong is going to go wrong, including my mouth. So we'll try to muddle through this one. Oh, man, it's going to be a long weekend, too. It's Memorial Weekend. That said, anyone who listens to the show know that we do start off the show with a dedication to a fallen hero. And today is no different. Today's dedication is going to go out to Army First Lieutenant Sharon Ann Lane. She was killed by incoming fire in Chulé, Vietnam, June 8th, 1969. And this is coming from several different sources. The first one is from MidwestGuest.com. Sharon Lane embarked on a career in nursing, only to see her career tragically cut short by a rocket blast. And I'm waiting for my dedication music to come in. Here we go. To see her career tragically cut short by a rocket blast at a Vietnam hospital far from her home near Canton, Ohio. And this is from ArmyHistory.org. Just 4 days before being mortally wounded by enemy fire while working in the 312th Evacuation Hospital in Chulé, Republic of Vietnam, First Lieutenant Sharon Ann Lane signed a letter to her parents in her characteristically upbeat manner. See you sooner. Writing to them about the heat, the GIs in her care, and the movie she missed the night before. Lane assured her parents that things were still very quiet around here. Haven't gotten mortared in a couple of weeks now. Ironically, within days of writing her parents, she was killed in a rocket attack upon the hospital where she was stationed. Sharon Ann Lane was born the 7th of July, 1943, in Zanesville, Ohio. 2 years later, The Lane family moved to Canton, where Sharon spent the remainder of her childhood. She graduated from Canton South High School in June 1961 and decided to pursue her dream of becoming a nurse by attending Altman High School of Nursing. She graduated on the 25th of April 1965 and worked at a local hospital for 2 years before trying her hand in the business world. She made it through 3 quarters at the Canton Business College before deciding to join the U.S. Army Nurse Corps Reserve on the 18th of April, 1968. Training for Second Lieutenant Lane began on the 5th of May of 1968 at Fort Sam Houston, Texas. She graduated on the 14th of June and just 3 days later reported for duty at the Army's Fitzsimmons General Hospital in Denver, Colorado. Her first assignment was with 3 tuberculosis wards, but after receiving a promotion to first lieutenant, she was placed in the Cardiac Division Intensive Care Unit and Recovery Room. She worked in the ICU until the 24th of April of '69, when she reported to Travis Air Force Base, California, with orders sending her to Vietnam. First Lieutenant Lane arrived at the 312th Evacuation Hospital at Chulai on the 29th of April. She was originally assigned to the Intensive Care Unit, but a few days later was reassigned to the Vietnamese ward. Nursing the Vietnamese in Ward 4 was often physically and emotionally challenging, yet Lane repeatedly declined transfers to another ward. She worked 5 days a week, 12 hours a day in Ward 4, and spent her off-duty time taking care of the most critically injured American soldiers in the surgical ICU. She thrived despite the demanding schedule and was adored and respected by co-workers and patients alike. On the morning of June 8, 1969, the 312th Evacuation Hospital was struck by a salvo of 122mm rockets fired by the Viet Cong. One rocket struck between wards 4A and 4B, killing 2 people and wounding another 27. Among the dead was First Lieutenant Lane, who died instantly by the fragmentation wounds to the chest. She was 1 month shy of her 26th birthday. Though one of 8 American military nurses who died while serving in Vietnam, Sharon Lane was the only American nurse killed as a direct result of hostile fire. A memorial service was held in Chulai on the 10th of June, and a Catholic Mass followed the next day. She was buried with full military honors at Sunset Hill Burial Park in her hometown of Canton, Ohio. For her service in Vietnam, First Lieutenant Sharon Ann Lane was awarded the Purple Heart, the Bronze Star with V device, the National Defense Service Medal, the Vietnam Service Medal, the National Order of Vietnam Medal, and the Vietnamese Gallantry Cross with Palm. In the years that followed her death, various individuals and organizations honored Lane in a variety of ways. On the 11th of November 1969, the Fitzsimmons Hospital named its recovery room the Lane Recovery Suite and put a plaque and a picture on display. In that same year, the Daughters of the American Revolution named her Outstanding Nurse of the Year and posthumously awarded her the Anita Newcomb McGee Medal in 1970. In 1973, a statue of Lane was dedicated in front of Altman Hospital, and in '86, the hospital opened the Sharon Lane Women's Center in its front lobby. The Canton chapter of the Vietnam Veterans of America officially changed its name to the Sharon Lane Chapter Number 199, and the roads in Denver, Colorado, and at Fort Belvoir, Virginia, have been named in her honor. Despite the fact that over 40 years have passed since her death, First Lieutenant Sharon Ann Lane remains an important symbol representing the sacrifices and services of the thousands of American women who served in the Vietnam War. Yet, her mother says Lane would approve none of this. She wasn't that kind of a person, Kay Lane stated. She just thought she was an ordinary person. Sharon Lane's life is an important part of a special exhibit on life in the 1960s, with her bio and nurse uniform at Camden, Ohio's William McKinney Presidential Library. Her mother donated the uniform in 2010. And this is from thevirtualwall.org, written on the 1st of September 2001, titled Sharon Lane, the All-American Girl. She came to Vietnam not to fight or warrior to be, but to serve a higher purpose across the sea. She knew the hurt, the pain, the dying. Sharon came to heal them and to stop the crying. With purpose in her steps, she made her rounds, to give hope to the soldier and to turn his frown upside down. Whether it be the boy from back home or the Viet Cong, she did her job with care. She knew this is where she belonged. She was cut down in the middle of the night. A piece of flying metal took her life. She died alone, so far from home. Her life was taken from us. Sharon's presence we still miss. Let us never forget that freedom has a cost. Sharon became our hero. Our hearts are empty by her loss. Sharon was the all-American girl. She was perfection in an imperfect world. Written and remembered by Doc Kerry Pardue, a field medic in Vietnam. The show is dedicated to Sharon Lane and to all the brave men and women who have served, who are serving and will serve our nation in the military. We also dedicate it to all the first responders out there who every day leave their homes and family behind to protect and serve us and our freedoms. God bless you.
In the grip of oppression, I fought for my liberty. I paid with the blood of my people. Freedom has never been free. Now my door's always open to dreamers and friends. When I'm attacked, I protect and defend, because my name is America. I stand proud and free. My name is America. Don't tread on me. I cannot be broken. I cannot be shamed. And I'll rise up from the flames, and I'll always stand proud and free. I'm America, don't tread on me. America is my name. My strength was not taken from others. Others gave it to me. They believe in the virtues I stand for, my respect for humanity. Now I'm challenged by tyrants who envy my power, but their vicious deeds become my finest hour, because my name is America. I stand proud and free. My name is America. Don't tread on me. I cannot be broken. I cannot be shamed. If you hurt me, I'll
right, that was Todd Allen Herndon, My Name is America, and you can download that for free by going to his website, toddallenshow.com. And we're back. It's Southern Sense here on Blog Talk Radio, High Plains Media, SHR Media, Kinetic Hi-Fi, the Fix FM out of Charleston, South Carolina. Oh, the heck with it. Just go to my website. It's the name of the show. Put a dash in the middle, southern-sense.com. I'm your hostess with the mostest, the radio chick Annie, along with my intellectual and debonair co-host Curtis C.S. Bennett. Check out our website, as I said, southern-sense.com. And we're still sitting number 16 out of the top 100 on TopTalkRadio.com. Oh, Curtis, ready to rock and roll?
Yes, indeed, and I'm waiting for the weekend to begin. This is Memorial Day weekend, and I hope people remember the meaning of it.
I do too. And to speak of that, we've got a fantastic guest with us. We've got Lieutenant Randy Sutton, one of the highest decorated Las Vegas, Nevada police officers, actor, author, activist, man about town, and one heck of a cutie. Good afternoon, Randy.
As long as I'm one heck of a cutie. The other stuff I don't really care about. It's great to be here. Thank you for having me again.
Oh, it is my pleasure. And I want to let the listening audience know that we did have Walt Heyer scheduled for later on this afternoon, but there was some sort of a mix-up on the scheduling because he's on the left coast, and he called in a little bit too early because you were waiting on the line. So Walt is going to be rescheduled to another show. So, Randy, if you're willing to stay with us the entire show, you got us, baby.
Okay, let's do it.
Oh, man, I don't even know where to start because there's so much going on. And we get bombarded, especially on Fridays, and it always happens just before we go on air, that everything starts to hit the fan. I don't know why. It's just under this presidency, everything hits on a Friday. And my head spins at times.
Well, I understand that because there's a ton going on, that's for sure.
Oh, that there is. You know, we've got the president doing his bye-bye world tour, if you want to call it that. He's over in Japan, Hiroshima, laying the wreath. And some of the stuff that he's saying and doing, especially his comments on the presidential race, you know, this is the least presidential president I have ever seen. I never thought, after surviving Jimmy Carter, that I would see anyone worse than Jimmy Carter.
Oh, well, you know, I of course am a little long in the tooth, so I was around during Jimmy Carter's heyday, and I take him over Obama any day because I think Jimmy Carter was just inept. Barack Obama is plotted his way, and I think he's got an agenda that has been really negative towards the country. Definitely negative towards the police.
Oh, jeez. Oh, I mean, in New York City, I thought we were really bad with the police commissioner. We called him Out-of-Town Brown. I thought it was really bad under that. And, oh, God, now I forgot the name of the mayor. Before Giuliani. Oh my goodness.
Was it Koch?
No, in between Koch and Giuliani.
I know who you're talking. I know just who you're talking about. I can't think of his name either.
Oh, because he really took the city down into one hell of a dump. And under Giuliani, we were able to bring it back and start the gentrification going on. But now, de Blasio has brought it back to the mid and early 80s condition. I never thought all that work we did gets reversed.
What Giuliani and Bratton did was put policing concepts into high gear that were called, community-oriented policing, ComStat, where basically the theory was, and it bore out very, very well, that if you enforce quality of life issues, spitting on the sidewalk, urinating in public, the squeegee people, et cetera, then you see a huge drop in crime. And that's exactly what happened. It's called the broken windows concept, and it was very, very effective. However, it's now been turned around and adjudged to have been racist, and that's where the fallacy is.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, I want to thank Bigfoot in the chat room. He remembered the name Mayor Dinkins, but we had another name for him.
Right.
Began with a
yeah.
D and ended up with less. It was. For those who don't get it, I'm going to say it anyway. Mayor Dickless is what we called him.
I love it.
Well, matter of fact, under Dinkins, at our graduation in Madison Square Garden, here we have the police commissioner doing his speech to, I forget, it was something like 2,500 of us graduating, and he was drunk. The police commissioner was drunk at our graduation. I mean, that
right.
is that
swell.
A good example. That was the city that we went in and cleaned up under Giuliani and Bratton. Raymond Kelly also. Matter of fact, Raymond Kelly was my husband's commanding officer in the Marine Corps, so I knew him personally. I attended bar in the Marine Corps Club before I became a cop there. But what we did with community policing, we went in on the streets. We got to know the shop owners. Yes, we chased the guys off the corners that were doing squeegees, that were doing the panhandling. And, we aggressively policed. The guy was not going to be out there dealing on the corner if he knew that we were standing there right next to him. And all of that is completely gone out the window, and the streets are now the Wild West.
Well, you know what? The criminal activity is increasing all over, but you can actually look at the policies of De Blasio, and it's a direct correlation to what he has put into place has literally set back the NYPD almost decades now.
No, it has. And it's not just in New York City. You see it spreading across the country, the utter disrespect that the police officers get. Now, we're all not saints, but you're only talking about maybe 1% or less than 1% of the total law enforcement that you may have a problem with. And you have 99% of these men and women out there doing a very difficult job. And I was listening to Sheriff Clark. He was on XM radio earlier today, and he's absolutely right. It starts in the home. If we do not teach our children to respect adults, respect your mother, respect your father, respect your grandparents, respect your teachers, how are they going to end up respecting other authorities such as law enforcement? It starts all the way back at the home.
Oh, without a doubt. I mean, the state cannot raise children. The state cannot give a sense of values, and they can't force that into a person's character. That character has to be developed from people that they grow up role modeling. If they don't have any positive role models, they learn from the streets, and anything they pick up in the streets is going to wind up being detrimental to them and to society.
That's an understatement, because we don't have the respect in the homes. And it's not just the upbringing in the homes, it's what we're getting from the media, including Hollywood. Our media is teaching kids, hey, you're smarter than your mom and dad, really. What is it? Al Gore was telling the kids, go teach your parents because you know better than they do. Isn't that a little bass-ackwards?
Yep, sure is. Sure is, but unfortunately, that mindset is partially responsible for the mess that we're in right now. That's the nanny state is what he's referring to and embracing.
Yeah, unfortunately, and this is why I think Bernie Sanders is so popular, because he's also promoting the nanny state. Anything you want, I'll get you for free. Free college, free phones, free internet, free anything. So the government will take care of you from cradle to grave. But that's not what it is to be an American. That is not what makes us unique and different. Our independence, our self-reliance is what makes us truly American. But instead, they've got this one world global socialistic idea.
Yeah, absolutely. And that may work in a short term for certain people, but it's simply unsustainable for the future.
No, it cannot be sustained because everyone doesn't understand what socialism is. It is, I call it, it's the snake that eats its own self. It starts eating with its tail and it keeps devouring everything until there's nothing left of just the mouth.
That's one way of putting it. That's for sure. But I want to let you know about something that happened that's actually positive, and that is that the state of Louisiana is passing what's called the Blue Lives Matter bill, and it's the first in the country that provides it's an enhancement statute. It's a hate crime statute that has been previously reserved for minorities, LGBT, and it's a hate crime. It's considered a hate crime in certain circumstances if you attack a person because of their ethnicity, their sexual orientation, their skin color. Well, now what they have done in Louisiana is pass a bill making it a hate crime to attack a police officer simply for being a police officer. And I think that this is really a step in the right direction that we're seeing.
Wow, that is really something. I know New York State has the laws that if you attack a law enforcement officer, that it elevates the level of a crime, but it does not elevate it, making the officer a protected class. And that is interesting.
It is interesting. And there is actually, although it seems not to have gained the traction that it did in Louisiana, but there's actually been a bill put forth in Congress to do the same thing federally, and that's something that I would really like to see.
Wow, I know a bunch of the Border Patrol guys would love to see that. Go ahead, Curtis.
Randy, this is Curtis. Do you think the Rodney King incident has any impact on the way the media and the public view police today?
You're talking about Rodney King from 1991?
Yeah, Rodney King, yeah.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. That was there have been certain pivotal moments, watershed moments that have affected law enforcement, and Rodney King was one of those. Absolutely one of those moments. I'm actually a veteran of what we called Rodney King Fright Night, and that was when the riots happened all over the country in relation to the verdict that came out clearing the police officers. And I can tell you that I've never seen anything like it in my entire police career. Was what took place that night, and that really did. I mean, the whole Rodney King incident changed policing forever. And we're seeing this again with Ferguson, I might add.
Well, it's funny because you and I are of the era where we went into policing where everyone did not have a video camera. The cell phones did not have video cameras. Most cell phones didn't even have cameras back then, if anyone had a cell phone. But when the advent of the video camera, it changed everything about policing. Cops were then suddenly afraid to do their job because it might be viewed in a bad light. It really handcuffed them. But now we've got, Randy, where we're also looking at now where the cops are wearing the cameras themselves, and the reverse is happening because now people are finally seeing what the cops are actually doing. They're seeing the side of the story the media is not telling.
That's true, and I was during the era that I became a policeman, and that we saw the advent of dash cams. The cameras that were filming from the police car, and when those first came out, it's very funny now in retrospect. We used to call it the punk in the trunk, because we assumed that it was going to simply be used as a way to spy on us, and as a way to to punish the police. And it's interesting that as younger police officers started joining who were much more attuned to technology, eventually you wouldn't find a guy that would take a car out without a dash cam because of the protections that it afforded them. So it's interesting the way that technology has altered the policing world. And we're seeing that now with the body cams. I was initially skeptical about them, but they are actually are much more protection for the police officer than they are against the police officer. But that being said, it's not a panacea. People believe because the body cams have been so on the forefront of what's taken place since Ferguson, where the politicians and the Black Lives Matter folks and other groups want to use the body cams to protect the people from the police. That's their perspective. My perspective is just the opposite. It protects the police from the people who would make false accusations against them. But once again, I want to caution you about this because these body cams don't show everything. They just show a very small part of the picture. So while they are helpful, they're not going to capture everything. They're depending on where they are worn in the body. When an officer's hands are extended in a shooting stance, you can't see. You can't see anything from the peripheral view because, and that may have a strong impact on the decision to use force. So they're not the panacea. They're not the end all be all. They're just another tool, and that's the way they need to be viewed.
Right. Now, I've been posting up in the chat room your websites, thepoweroflegacy.com and randylsutton.com, and people can click on the show because, Randy, a majority of people that do listen to the podcast later on, so that all they have to do is just click on the link on the description show page and go to your website. And you are an outspoken person. You do have an organization, Blue Lives Matter, as well as I looked at the Facebook page, too, and I joined the Facebook page on you. You also have a Twitter account, and you got all of my Twitter personas joined up on your Twitter. People know I have more than one Twitter account, so I can pop in and out and no one will know I'm there. But great information you have on those sites, and people can actually see some of those videos. I was fascinated by one that scared the bejesus out of me, where there was one cop where the dashboard cam was showing that he went to do a simple car stop, and the guy got out, attacked the officer trying to take the gun away from him, and the officer ended up discharging his weapon, trying to disable it. And I was watching that fight, and I'm thinking, oh, my God, where's the backup? Where is the backup? And he couldn't even get to his radio. There really are some amazing videos out there that have been and I post them when I see them. I post them and for your viewers, I do all of my posting on my it's under Randy Sutton Public Figure. That's my page that I do all of my posting on, and I welcome your listeners to come join me and join the conversation. We have some fantastic people that are part of my page, and we have some very interesting debates and conversation. I read every single comment, so I welcome your listeners to come join me. But the videos that are becoming that are being released to the public can really show the realities of the dangers facing the police and why they act the way they do. It's as a police supervisor, I was a cop for 34 years, and 20 of those as a police supervisor. I used to get complaints from good citizens, and the complaint would be, I didn't like the officer's attitude, and I would delve into that. Tell me what you mean? Well, when he walked up on my car, he had his hand near his gun, and I felt threatened. Oh, I've gotten that.
And I mean, I would get those complaints very frequently, and that's where you have to communicate. Well, let me explain to you why. And once I was able to get that point across, then they understood, and that's part of the communication or the lack of communication that I really believe is responsible for much of the misinformation that gets out there. We as a profession sometimes don't communicate well. That's why when I do my commentary for all the news media, I'm part of the staff of a local television station as well on law enforcement issues. I consider myself a translator. I explain why police officers act the way they do, why they take the actions that they do, so that it makes sense to the public. And I think if we did more of that, we'd have a lot less unrest.
No, that is the truth, because, whenever I did do a car stop, and, of course, the hand was always resting on the gun, and I had one big old trucker turn around and go, well, ma'am, you don't have to have your hand on the gun. I ain't going to do nothing to you. This is a trucker in the streets of Brooklyn. And I said, well, wait a minute. Number one, I can't see your hand, so I can't tell if you're holding a weapon. And number two, I'm doing this car stop on my own, so I don't want you to come after me, and I want to make sure I protect not just myself, but the public, because the public can end up in the crosshairs in the line of fire should you decide to open on me. And should I find it necessary to open on you? I need to protect myself and the public. And when you explain it that way, then they go, oh. And I told them I had just recently at that point lost a friend of mine to a car stop. He approached the vehicle, and yes, the guys in there had a shotgun. They opened up on him, and that was another funeral I had to go to. And that's a funeral you really don't want to go to. And the public has to understand that. We're just as frightened as they are out there, but we've sworn to put our fears aside.
Exactly. That's the truth. And unfortunately, there's a major case going on in Arizona right now, where this Mesa, Arizona police officer, rookie, young man, killed a suspect who they were taking into custody. This is based on a report of a guy pointing a rifle out of the window of a motel. When the police get there, and all this is caught on body cam, by the way. Mm-hmm. The sergeant and he assembles his people. They make a very good tactical plan. They carry out the tactical plan, calling the people out of the motel room. Woman comes out first. They take her into custody and move her into a place of safety. And when the male suspect, who later the autopsy revealed that he had a blood alcohol of 0.29, you know how drunk that is, mm-hmm. They had him come out, and they proned him out and had him crawl to them. Well, the officer who was later charged saw him move his hand towards his waistband. One of the other officers said he believed it was to pull his pants up, but this officer interpreted it as he was going for a gun, and mm-hmm. He opened fire and he killed him. Well, they've charged this man with murder, and this is the we're seeing this on a higher level than I've ever seen before, where prosecutors are charging police officers with really serious criminal offenses based on an interpretation that they made for their own officer safety. And while, yes, it's tragic, the man did not have a gun. It's tragic that this took place, but does it rise to the level of taking a cop and charging him with second-degree murder? That's the problem that I have.
What's really weird is that, unless you stand in the shoes of a police officer, you don't understand what they're seeing or what their fears are. And the fact that these prosecutors are going so far as to do this, it only encourages officers to not do their job, which then again leads to situations like New York City and de Blasio.
Well, in effect, what we're seeing is depolicing. And some are calling it the Ferguson effect. In essence, cops are weighing the risks and saying, you know what? You never get in trouble for the car stop you don't make.
Exactly. And look what's going on in Chicago. Chicago cops are not even responding. We do have a question coming up in the chat room from our friend Kel, and she wants to know how you feel about the police initiative programs of offering money to gang members if they turn in their guns. And I remember New York City was doing at the time it was $50 back in the 80s. And gang members are not going to turn in the guns for $50. You may find a family member or someone else doing it, but gang members, they're going to laugh their butt off, honestly. You know how that goes, right?
Yeah, these are ineffective programs. I mean, any gun that's off the street is okay with me, but don't look at it that it's going to have any effect whatsoever on gang crime. It just simply isn't going to happen.
No. Like I said, the gang members laugh at that. You know, you find someone that may have had a family member that passed away. They may have been a veteran or a former law enforcement and left their weapons behind. You'll find those being turned in, but you're not going to find the illegal guns being turned in.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. It just isn't going to happen. It's you know what it is. It's one of those political feel-good things that came out of the mayor's office, and hey, let's do this. It's ineffective. It's window dressing.
It's vote getting.
Hey, Randy. When it comes to policing in the community, what impact does rap music have on the relationship and the way the community perceive police officers today? I know some years ago it was really bad. I'm just curious if it died down some. All that hate.
I didn't hear your whole question. Can you tell me the first part of it again?
When it comes to the community and policing, how is rap music impacting the relationship and the perception that the community have with the police?
Yeah, that's a very interesting question, and you know, there are so many avenues of touching people, and music has always been one of those very effective ways that subtly moves people to certain emotions. You know, the song that you fell in love to, that kind of thing. Well, rap music, generally speaking, something that invokes violence. It invokes rape. It invokes drug use. It invokes guns and violence towards the police, and I think that has a true effect on people's the way they view things, and that's why I think I find it abhorrent. I'll give you an example that's come up here very recently. That's Beyonce and her performance at the Super Bowl, where she basically celebrated the Black Panther movement.
Oh, that had me so angry.
Oh, you and me both. I mean, I attended the funeral of one of their victims, and watching the widow receive the flag, it was something that even though it was 35 years ago, I still remember vividly. So when a performer like Beyonce, who has a tremendous influence and an audience, when she celebrates that type of violence and that type of hatred and that type of divisiveness, when this is a time when our country needs unity, needs to come together, I find it really, really offensive, and I believe that it does have an effect on the way people view and think about the police. Does that answer your question?
Oh, most certainly.
Well, you know, Randy, what's really ironic, because you did mention Beyonce, and I wanted to get into her on this issue. Last week was the National Law Enforcement Memorial Week, and we did a series of shows doing the dedication to Memorial Day, military as well as the police officers. And of all things, Minnesota Governor Mark Dayton declared May 23rd, last Monday, Beyonce Day.
I know. I wrote about that in my blog. Let me tell you, I have a great many contacts in the police world, and what happened in Minneapolis was after this last shooting of Jamar Clark, where basically the police department, Precinct 4, it was actually the precinct where it took place, was besieged. They were under siege like an old-time movie where they were surrounded by activists. They were paid protesters is what they really were. And they were unable to do basically any police work for months. And that governor did absolutely nothing. So when I see that he declares a Beyonce Day, all I can do is shake my head and wonder what alternative reality this idiot lives in.
The reality, even with the Super Bowl halftime, you mean to tell me that no one in the NFL saw them rehearsing this number? Really? No one saw her rehearsing this number? No one talked to her about the content of it? And no one thought that millions of fans that happen to have family members in law enforcement, millions of fans that are law enforcement, may take some offense to this?
Well, you know what? I wish I could say that it really surprises me, but it doesn't surprise me. I mean, because this is the world in which we live in now is the Kim Kardashian world, where out of control lifestyles and the worship of celebrities is just out of control. And basically Beyonce can do whatever she wants. And look what it did for her. I mean, it actually helped her career. And but Beyonce goes far beyond just singing about it. She and her husband gave tens of thousands of dollars in Baltimore to bail out the people that were attacking the police and burning the city. I mean, it doesn't. To me, it doesn't get any more insane than that.
Yeah, but God forbid paparazzi steps 1 foot onto her property. God forbid. And then next thing you know, she'll be there with 911 and cursing at the cops. Why are you letting him walk on my property?
Yeah, exactly. It's it's absurd, it's disturbing, but it is the new reality. But I want to tell you something, that despite all of the negative stuff that's going on, I've been observing something else, something much more positive taking place. And that is that there is beginning to be a backlash to all of the anti-police sentiment and absurdity, protests, and violence that's been going on. We are now seeing hundreds of thousands of people supporting the police in a way that they never have before. For instance, Blue Lives Matter. I am the national spokesman for Blue Lives Matter. It's the largest grassroots police support group in the United States. We have pretty close to 700,000 followers. Okay, that's an immense number of people that have chosen to support their law enforcement. You would never have seen that before the insanity of Ferguson, before the insanity of the Trayvon Martin debacle, and now we are seeing that. These police support groups are popping up everywhere. There's probably 30 of them on Facebook, of which I'm connected with many of them. And so that actually is the is a really interesting reaction to all of the negative stuff that's going out there. We're seeing people are lining up behind the police, and I'm about to launch something that I think is going to be a tremendous unifier, and I'll tell you about that if you want to hear when you want to hear it.
Oh no, absolutely do want to hear it, because you know what? I was driving down the street the other day, and I was doing a little bit 5 miles over the speed limit, and of course there's a cop right behind me, and I'm going, oh, now I'm going to get pulled over, and I don't get tickets. I don't. You know what I'm talking about, Randy? But
of course,
he just turned around, and on the back of my SUV, yes, I've got a big Ford Expedition, the extended length one. I've got my Oath Keepers sticker. So, you know, he comes around the side of me and pulls up and gives me a wave. So, yes, we've got a lot of support. They know that we're out there. They know that we're going to have their back. And you don't have to be former law enforcement. You just have to support them.
Exactly. And, you know, since I've been writing, you know, I write for Police Magazine, I write for Law Officer Magazine, and of course my own blog on Facebook that receives a great deal of attention. And I get contacted by quite literally thousands of people a month, both active duty law enforcement, retired law enforcement, and just plain good citizens who say to me, Randy, how do we show our support? What is it that we can do? And I racked my brain. It took me about 1.5 years to figure it out. I racked my brain to try and figure out a way to bring the people and their police back together again. And I think that we've created it. It's a new organization that I'm just about to launch. In fact, we put up a crowdfunding campaign just days ago. It's called Angel Shields, and it's on Indiegogo. And here's what Angel Shields is designed to do. I think you are going to love it. How many times as a policeman or as a police officer did you go into your pocket to buy somebody a meal?
Oh, I can't tell you. Oh, man.
You can't even, right, of course. And
yeah.
Cops do that all over the country. They are, and most police officers make no money. The average is $50,000 a year. That's barely a livable wage. But they are still, the vast majority of police officers are very caring, compassionate people. And when they see someone in need, they want to help. So we've created the Angel Shields program because here's what we're doing. I'm putting a fund together that will, on a grassroots level, give $10 gift cards to police officers to give to other people. Think about this. Think about this. What's one of the major issues is that people don't know cops. The vast majority of people will never have an interaction. And when they do, it's generally a negative one. They're getting a ticket, they're getting stopped for something, the police are responding to a burglary call. I wanted to create the ability for police officers to make nothing but a positive contact. So the Angel Shields program, these Angel Shields gift cards are designed to be that avenue to, when I'm walking the beat and I see you open the door for an elderly person, that gives me the opportunity to come up to you and say, you know what, I saw that little act of kindness. I want to give you something. I want to buy you coffee. Here's an Angel Shields card. And think of how that will change the perspective of people. How many people do you think will go home that night and say, you'll never believe what happened? And that's what Angel Shields is going to do.
Well, you know, I happen to know the local police chief here in Beaufort County. I'm going to let him know about this because I think that is absolutely fantastic. I can't tell you. I mean, even today, if I'm driving down the road and there's one area, I know that this veteran goes out there and he has a sign, you know, just saying, you know, asking for food. And I know a couple of times I've stopped because he's right at a traffic light, opened my window and handed him whatever I had just had. I know last time I went to McDonald's. I hadn't even opened the bag yet. I just handed him the bag. You know,
right,
and
right.
this is what we did every day on patrol. You know, the little acts. One of the things I had, one of my favorite things, on Graham Avenue in Brooklyn, there was this one store that had these little rides for the kids. You know, that took the quarter. I think one was a duck or truck or whatever it was. I used to keep quarters in my pocket because the parents would go into the store and the kids would want to ride it, but the parents didn't have the extra quarter. So I always had quarters there. So the kids.
And you know what? Here's the thing: these acts of kindness are taking place all over the nation. Cops are doing this on their own, not out of a sense, not out of because they have to, but because they have a sense of compassion. What Angel Shields is going to do is to be able to fuel that and give them the opportunity to create nothing but positive interactions. So angelshields.com is my website, and I invite everybody to come check it out. It's going to have nothing but positive news stories and stories about law enforcement compassion and kindness. And this is one of the ways that we are going to combat all of the negative publicity and the negative feelings towards police. We're going to help create a change, and I'm really, really excited about doing this.
Wow. I just put the link up in the chat room, and later on I'll put it up on the show page so people, again, listening to the podcast can check it out. It's a fantastic idea, and I'm definitely going to try to get our local guys involved in this. But we do have a caller in on the line, wants to ask a question or make a comment. I forgot which. His name is George with Firefox News. Matter of fact, George does voiceovers, and he did the voiceover for the start of my show today. So,
great.
Go ahead, George.
First of all, Lieutenant, I had the pleasure of being a military police officer with the New York Guard for 6 years and served during 9/11. I met some of the guys from the Las Vegas Metro PD, and when they came to one of the anniversaries, and it was an honor to meet them and a pleasure to be with them on that day. And certainly all of law enforcement has a difficult task when you guys go out in uniform. But I wanted to ask you about this program that you've put together, and I want to relate a couple of small, at least one or two small stories that happened with me involving law enforcement while I was still in uniform, by the way. But when it comes to this, your organization is it going to branch out, not just with the website, but I mean, are there going to be people in law enforcement, people who can volunteer to do this sort of thing with your organization in their local communities as well? Because I think that it would be a wonderful way for people to give to show the officers and to show the community that yes, there are all the officers are the most compassionate people on the planet. They got a hard job to do, and yeah, they got to be tough as nails sometimes, but that doesn't mean that they don't have a heart, they don't have a soul.
Yeah, here's one of the concepts I've been working on, because you make a very, very good point. I know that there will be people that in the communities that want to participate. So, I mean, this is strictly funded by police supporters, whether it's $10 or $20, whatever people can afford. One of the things that I'm creating is the ability for, say you're just a community member that wants to do even more than just give some money. What I hope to incorporate into this is for you to fund. Say you want to get 20 Angel Shields cards that you can give to the police officers yourself, so that you can have a positive interaction. We're going to create that opportunity as well. You may just want to take them into the police station. Say to the chief, you know what, Chief? I'm a believer in Angel Shields. and I want to give these to your cops so that it's basically, we're paying it forward is what we're doing. And yes, I'm going to create that opportunity as well.
Well, Lieutenant, let me just say that I would be proud to be a part of it. I really would, because I've tongue tied. For a voiceover artist to get tongue tied, that's terrible. And it can be really, really expensive too in a studio. Look, I had a family member back in the early 1900s who was a police chief in the city of Peekskill Police Department in Peekskill, New York, my hometown. My father was a military police officer. I ended up being a military police officer. I actually wanted to go with the Corps of Engineers, but I decided to go. I went to the MPs instead, and the only reason I did that was because I wanted their training. That, and I didn't want to have to build anything. I got to thinking about it after a while. But one of the things that happened with me, which was really kind of comical, involving law enforcement, happened when I was on my way to weekend drill. Now, of course, me to admit that I have a lead foot live on a radio broadcast with law enforcement people on the line is kind of embarrassing. But
you're not alone. Have no fear.
Huh?
You're not alone. Have no fear.
Oh, good. So I don't have to feel too badly. But what had happened was, I'm riding down the road on the main roadway, the main highway, Route 9 here in New York, because I live in the Hudson Valley. And as I'm passing through this town called Fishkill, New York, all the lights are green, so I've got straight shot right on through, and I know the timing of these lights, so I'm pretty good. But I kind of tip the scales a little bit just to be on the safe side in case they change that theory. Well, the next thing I do is I look in my mirror, and sure enough, I see the bubblegum machine come on, and I'm like, oh, not now. I've got formation in less than an hour, and I've got to be there to make sure the guys are ready and raring to go. I pull up the side of the road, I throw my four-ways on, I turn off the engine, take the keys out of the ignition, throw them up on the dashboard. Force of habit. Open up the window, and in my visor, you know those CD carriers that you can put on your visor? Well, yeah, in there, I kept my license, registration, and insurance card. Force of habit. So I take them out, and I'm holding in my left hand, I'm in full complete uniform, MP Broussard on my arm and all. Here comes the officer. Oh, for the love of God, will you get out of here? He took one look at the uniform and the MP Broussard, and he just lost it. He figured, I'm going to give a ticket to this guy?
Well, I think we've all had one of those instances. Because Randy, I'm reminded of one time I had made an arrest. I went down to Central Booking. I had this old VW Westphalia van, and it had the curtains on the windows and everything. It had sleep sofa in there, a little dining table. So I'm waiting for the ADA to write up the paperwork. So I'm down in the van sleeping. A friend of mine calls me on the cell phone. Oh, your paperwork's done. I go up, sign it, I leave. I'm heading home, and of course I forgot to open the curtains around on the van. And this thing had no muffler. It had the flower power and everything all over this van. And here comes the local precinct cops. As you said, the gumballs go on. I get pulled over, and they thought they had themselves a couple of Rastas dealing drugs.
It sounds like the Cheech and Chong van.
Yeah, it looked like a Cheech and Chong van, honestly. So, of course, I rolled down the windows, and the two cops look at me, and they knew me. And they go, oh, geez, Ann, what the hell are you doing driving that thing? We thought we had ourselves a good bust.
Oh, yeah, you should have had somebody with you that could have did one of the Cheech and Chong voices, like, "Hey man, what are you crazy? We're going on our way to go get this stuff. Not have it already."
Oh, we've all had those
I love
stories.
it.
But the Angel Shield, I absolutely do love, and like I said, I'm going to be putting that up on the show description later on tonight, so people
Well,
can
you
click on it.
you have the honor of being the first announcement of this. That's how new it is. We're still waiting for our 501c3 status, but I think that this is going to change lives, and I'm really excited about it. I think giving the opportunity for police officers to have nothing but a positive interaction with the people that they serve is going to change a lot of the perspectives that people have. So I'm really excited about this.
Yeah,
Randy, sounds great to me. Like I said, count me in.
Yeah.
Well, hey, Randy,
if you would, send people to the Indiegogo account so we can start getting this thing funded. And they'll get, we're creating these Angel Shield stickers for their cars. They'll be driver's license holders with the Angel Shields emblem. And then as we progress, there'll be other items that, hats and shirts and all the other kind of stuff as we move along creating this organization.
All right, and the Indiegogo link is also on the angelshields.com?
It should be. It literally just went up yesterday. So I assume it is. I better check with my web developer, but if they go to Indiegogo and look at Angel Shields, they can find it there too.
All right, that sounds excellent. I did have someone sent me a text message who happens to be listening in. He's running for Congress for District 4, North Carolina, T.J. Kimball, and he sent me a message that his middle son is a police officer in Durham, North Carolina. So, there's a lot of people out there that are listening in that have family members in law enforcement. This is the thing that the public doesn't understand. We are your aunts. We are your uncles, your brothers, your sisters, your sons, your daughters, your parents. We're not just some stranger or some just blank face. We're not a bunch of white racists. We are your neighbor. We're here. We're part of your community. We are you. The difference is we have sworn to protect and serve you.
Well, I mean, the part of the left, if you will, some of the left organizations like Black Lives Matter and the George Soros funded organizations, their aim is to dehumanize law enforcement, to create the false impression that the white cop is out there to hunt down young black men and shoot them. That's their person. That's their narrative. That's their propaganda. And the reality is something far from that. The police officers come in every single race, every ethnicity, every socioeconomic strata. And when they put that uniform on, color goes out the window.
Mm-hmm.
And they serve the public, their community. And now, I don't want to sound like I'm Pollyanna here, because there are police officers who allow their biases to color their views. That happens. And there are police officers that act improperly, that commit acts of misconduct. Those things take place. The vast majority, however, is just the opposite. Now, you spent how many years as a police officer, Ann?
10 years until I lost full use of my right arm.
10 years you spent as a cop.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you and I have not talked about this, but I'm gonna go out on a limb here and say that 90% of the people that you worked with were people of great honor and integrity. Is that about right?
Yeah. Matter of fact, in the 10 years I was there, I'm trying to think. 1, 2, 3, 4. We had, on average, any given year, 250 cops. I've known of 4 that were dirty in my command. So for 10 years, 250 cops on rotation. That's a very small number.
And that was during a different era. I might add. That was in the early '90s, correct?
It was 86 to 96. As a matter of fact, September 1st this year, I will be retired 20 years.
All right, that's a good milestone.
Yeah.
But now, I mean, that was actually a dark era for for the NYPD because there were several major scandals, and after that, you saw a much greater influence of positive policing, and you saw a real drop in misconduct and corruption issues.
Right, because I got in there right after the 7/7 corruption scandal. The command that I was assigned to was the one that Serpico was assigned to, that he was shot in. As a matter of fact, I think I've told you this before. My first foot post, I still have the memo book, was directly in front of the building that he was shot in. So, yeah, we got in there right at the heels of all those scandals, and it was the toughest time. And you were under a microscope. You know, you think you're under a microscope now, but we had IAD in every single friggin' corner you can think of, and it really cleaned up the department. And now, as I said, less than 1% you will find are corrupt.
Exactly, and you know, it's not just not being corrupt. It's about believing in. I mean, here's what makes a police officer successful. It takes a deep belief in honor and integrity, compassion and kindness. Those are the cornerstones for police success.
If I could ask you a question, Randy, you're talking about about the level of the officer, the integrity, the literally what I like to equate to as someone who goes above and beyond their normal upbringing, because when we're growing up, we're taught certain life lessons from our parents. As we go through college, or and go on to our chosen career, the life lessons go with us. Law enforcement officers take that to the next level. They take it to the nth level, because it seems to me that officers, they're given such a bad rap, by the media. They're given such a bad rap by members of the community when things like what happened in Baltimore a year ago with Freddie Gray. I'm not going to sit here and say that those men were guilty. That's not my place. But if they did do something,
I'll say right now, they weren't guilty.
Yeah,
they were guilty of nothing except doing police work.
Well, actually, I have that on the list of stuff to talk to you with the Baltimore Six, because it's really ironic that, they're saying that the racist white cops, well, 3 of them happened to have been African American, black. 3 of the ones of those 6. And the first one that has been, what was it, not convicted, hung jury. Where were the protests after that? Of course, nothing. You heard not a peep. The second one was found, innocent, not guilty. Where is the protests?
Well, the protests were outside the courthouse for that one. They were outside. In less than an hour, they built up quite a bit.
Yes, that's true. There was a little bit, but the lawyer for the family of Freddie Gray did the responsible thing. He came out publicly, and he supported the judge's decision, which I was shocked to see, but I was also heartened to see, because I think that had a direct correlation on the fact that there was no major unrest because of the verdict.
And that I found very amazing. But then again, the news doesn't report any of that. You don't hear the media talking about it. It's, oh, well, we didn't win that one, so let's go find another battle to, get everyone riled up and pissed off about. Let's go at a Trump rally and cause a ruckus there instead.
Yeah. See, one thing that I always carry with me is from when I was a child. There was I can't believe I'm dating myself with this word, but there was a truant officer when I was growing up, because I was hyperactive, what they call ADHD today. Boy, I wish they'd come up with a term. Just keep one term and make it simple. But anyway, I used to run away from school a lot. Being hyperactive, I barely sat still 5 minutes. And one day, I ran out of the school, and who happens to be standing right outside the door but the truant officer? I literally, head first, bounced right off his gut, landed on my backside. He looks down at me and he goes, "Mr. Sinzer, just where do you think you're going? You and your mother and I are going to have a talk. Let's go." Now, mind you, I was maybe 7 years old. I'm looking up at a man who was like 3 times my height, 3 times my width, and I'm sitting there on the ground going, "Okay."
Yes.
He gets me to my mother's door. Looks at my mother and says, "Rosemary, would you do me a big favor? Would you, when you bring your son to school tomorrow, tie him to the chair?"
Yeah,
I
really.
just ate breakfast, and he bounced into me.
Well, policing has changed a lot over the years. We're more community organized. Oh God, my words are not coming out too well today.
I'm rubbing off on you, Annie.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks a lot. But it's more towards community policing than it has been in the past, and it's a different way of doing it, and it's a different mindset in today's day and age, especially with technology. So doing something with Angel Shields, but there are other outreach programs, Randy, that I know that our community has, where they do Citizens Police Academy, where they actually learn what the cops are doing, what the laws are, and how the process works. Would Angel Shields work with something like that too, encouraging more community civilian police academies?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, all of those things are relationship builders. I remember Las Vegas Metro had a very active ride-along program, and it was really interesting to see people who were highly critical of the police until they did a ride-along. It was like they got visited by 3 spirits on Christmas night, and they wind up becoming, major supporters, because that's the old, walk a mile in my shoes. And once they saw firsthand the challenges, it gave them a much greater understanding. And so that's all about relationship building. And anytime you can have that positive experience, then that usually creates a change in their attitudes towards policing.
Well, that is a change for the positive, because people don't realize, on average, in the United States, approximately 150 officers are shot and killed every year, and that's not including our canine or equine partners. But,
well, that's not exactly accurate. There are 150 police officers lose their lives in the line of duty, but generally speaking, about half of that are intentional murders, and the rest are other reasons, traffic accidents, training accidents, that kind of thing. But yes, they are giving their lives in the line of duty at about every 53 hours.
People can go down to the Officer Down Memorial page, which is odmp.org, and they can see the listings, and they give a brief description of how that officer lost their lives. They also list on that the canines that are killed or die in the line of duty. And these guys, these dogs, are so beautiful. And I mean, I've known several of the canine officers, and these handlers and the dog partners, it's the same as if it was me and my human partner. That is how close they work together. And they're together 24/7. You know, I get to go home from my partner at the end of the day and get to relax, but the canine officer and his dog are together 24/7. But I'm saying it's a page that people really have to visit to get the full impact of what officers do. And some of the ways
I agree.
I'm getting emotional, so you have to pardon me when I talk about things like this. And you know, Randy, it is part of our life. It's part of who and what we are. And it takes a special person to become a law enforcement officer and be dedicated to it. You know, some people just do it for the money. That's a cop I really don't want to walk with. But a lot of us do it because we have a sense of needing to serve.
You know,
without a doubt, most don't do it for money because the money sucks in most places.
True.
In fact, let me give you. This is gonna break your heart. But there was a police officer that died last year in the line of duty. He was murdered, shot to death during a domestic. His name was Lloyd, and he was in rural Pennsylvania. And I wrote about his death at the time as another. He had more than 20 years on the job, and he was shot to death. About 3 weeks after his death, an anonymous coworker of his sent me the news that at the time that he was killed, he was making $12 an hour. $12 an hour he gave his life for. Now, if you ask me, when I see Hillary Clinton and Bernie Sanders up there proselytizing about giving McDonald's burger flippers $15 an hour, it sickens me to realize that there is no minimum wage for police officers, and nobody's fighting for that.
Yeah, that's true. That is true. You know, $15 an hour to flip a burger compared to $12 an hour to put your life on the line every single day. And the worst call that you can possibly go on is a domestic, because you have no idea what the heck you're walking into. And if you turn around and you decide to arrest the husband or the boyfriend, you'll find the girlfriend or the wife attacking you. Suddenly they're not fighting each other, they're fighting the cop. It is the most dangerous, and where a lot of cops get the worst injuries or even killed.
Absolutely.
Domestic calls are really hard. And it doesn't matter if you're walking into an apartment, to a house, or on the middle of the street. They are the most dangerous call. But
I hate to say this, but I have another radio interview I have to do in about 10 minutes.
Okay, great. Now, it has been a pleasure, but we want to talk about, you have organizations such as Heroes, the Memorial Foundation, 53 Hours, you're the national spokesman for Blue Lives Matter. You've got so many things, also Legacy Media, and all this people can get to through your website, which is randylsutton.com or thepoweroflegacy.com, correct?
Right. It's actually randylsutton.com is the one to go to, and now angelshields.com as well.
Well, Randy, you do so much fantastic work, and it's always fun to have you on the show. There's so much we have to talk about. You're with illegal aliens being arrested and then just simply released, the massive release that Governor Brown has been doing, and so much more to talk about, so much that is going on. But it's always fun to have you on the show.
Let's get together again soon. I love coming on your show, and anytime you want to have me, you can count on me being there.
Well, I apologize for being a little tongue-tied, but this is an emotional subject to me, as you know, so I cannot always be as eloquent and vivacious as I normally am.
Well, I got a question.
It's just fine.
Before you leave.
Yeah, yes, sir.
and with the sentiment that it is in the community versus the police, how is it that on television, police shows are the most popular shows on TV? I'm talking shows like Cops, Law and Order, CSI, and even reruns of Miami Vice. It just amazes me.
It's interesting, isn't it? And, I don't know if you're aware of this, but I was one of the most featured police officers on the TV show Cops. In fact, all of my episodes can be found on my website, randylsutton.com, under videos. And the far-reaching effect of that show is felt to me even today. I actually got an email yesterday from a young man who told me that he grew up watching me on Cops, and then he read my books, and that's what caused him to become a state trooper. And so it's an amazing amount of influence that shows like that can actually have that are positive.
Well, let's hope that they turn the tide and no more us versus them, and let them understand that blue lives do matter. All lives matter. And we're part of their community. We're part of their family. We're not there to hurt them. We're there to help them. Exactly right. Well, Randy, it has been so much fun, and we'll be talking. You got my number.
Sounds great. It's always a pleasure. You guys take care. Have a great day.
Take it easy, Randy. Nice talking to you.
That's Lieutenant Randy L. Sutton. Check out his website, randylsutton.com. What a great guy. And like I said, I apologize. I'm getting tongue-tied because this is something that is so very dear and close to my heart. And the more people that we can get to understand that we are you. We are you. It's not us versus them. There's certain laws that we do have to uphold. That's what you hired us for. That is what you want us there for. It's your tax dollars that are paying our salaries. So let us do our job. Let us help protect your community. When you look at the riots in Ferguson, who was hurt? The store owners that happen to be your aunts, your uncles, your parents, your brother, your sister. Who are we there to protect? Your parents, your sister, your uncle, you, the shop owner. This is what I don't understand. Why the riots in Baltimore and Ferguson when you hurt the very people of your own community? Let us do our job. That said, well, Curtis.
Well, not only that, the people who work in these stores that get destroyed or vandalized, they're out of work now, so they get impacted.
Yeah. I mean, here you want a $15 an hour job, and you just decimated your entire neighborhood. I mean, It took decades for Brooklyn to recover from the riots of the 60s and early 70s. It took them decades. I mean, when I got there were still burnt-out buildings. You hurt your very neighborhood. And
and a lot of times I run into police officers that I've known for years in my hometown, and they look at me, and they're smiling and they're happy and everything. But one day I went into town, and I came across an officer. He was getting ready to retire, and he didn't seem sad to be leaving the job because he loved the job. He loved it. He absolutely loved working in the community and being able to do something positive, and that's how he put it to me. But he was bitter. He was bitter because he was being forced out.
Well, it's funny because when I was retired because of my line of duty injuries, it was. For years, I would wake up in the middle of the night thinking I had to get up and get to work. It is such an intimate part of you because you're giving yourself. When you do that job, when you're out there on patrol, it's 100% of you. It's not the same as when you go into the office and you're filing stuff and you're daydreaming about, your date with your significant other later on tonight, or you're thinking about what you're going to be doing over the weekend. When you go out there on the street, every nerve in you is attuned to what is going on around you. You are constantly looking. You're constantly on edge. The adrenaline is just pumping all the time. And when you walk away from that, they say people can become addicted to adrenaline rushes, and it's true. But when you walk away, it's still there with you. It's still there with you. And this is what people don't understand. That's why a lot of times people will find that cops will congregate with other cops because we understand each other. And it's hard to describe this to someone who has no knowledge of what it's like to become an officer, a law enforcement officer.
Yeah, it's that feeling that you get in the field that you're when you're out there, you have that situational awareness going on constantly. Wherever your patrol route takes you, that's your situational awareness is going almost 24/7. Even after you're out of the job, it's still that way because it's part of who you are.
Well, it's funny because my husband makes fun of me because when I'm driving, I'm using my mirrors, all my mirrors, all the time. And it's something that I learned as a cop, and it's something that became important to me when I lost a friend of mine. His name was Eddie Burns, and I'm sure some people will remember that. He was in a canine car guarding a witness's house, and the drug lord, I believe was Pablo Guzman was his name, ordered the hit on the officer. And because he was in a canine car, he did not have full use of his mirrors. He could not see these assassins approach him on the blind side. And I lost my friend. This is the guy I went to the police academy with, that I sat down and broke bread with, that I sat down and studied with, and attended his funeral and sat at the kitchen table with his parents. I still have that instinct in me. When I drive, I'm constantly looking to see what is going around, all 360 degrees. When I'm walking on a street, I'm using the shop windows to see what's around me. I'm not walking around with my head up in the air. But this is something that people don't understand. And when Randy said that, people, when they go with the ride along with the cops, all of a sudden they now understand. They go through the three ghosts of Christmas Past, Charles Dickens' Christmas story. Oh, they understand now. Now they understand the mentality. Now they understand the danger. And they also understand the generosity of our spirits. It takes a lot of generosity to go out there and give everything of yourself to help the public. And he's right. I can't tell you how many times I bought someone that needed a meal, or I handed them whatever I had just bought myself to eat. Can't tell you how many times. How many times I put the coins in the little toys for the kids to ride.
Annie, when I was homeless back in 2011, 2012, I was sleeping in a van in the Walmart parking lot. It was the middle of winter. The night before, we had a major snowstorm blow through. I had no gas in the van at all, except enough to maybe get to the mobile station a few feet from where I was parked. But I didn't have the money to get the gas. A town of Fishkill cop comes along, sees me shivering in the van. He pulls up right in front of my vehicle. And I'm sitting there, I'm thinking, oh great, I'm going to get hauled in for vagrancy. What next? I'm already homeless, nowhere to turn, feeling desperate. That officer took me over to his cruiser, brought me into the Walmart, because they have a McDonald's in there. And he said to the manager behind the counter, he put a $20 bill on the counter. He said, whatever this young man wants, give it to him. If there's any change left, give it to him. And I looked at this guy. I just looked at him. I was like, what are you doing? You guys don't make enough money to be throwing it away on a guy like me. And he said, no, you're right, we don't. But we do it anyway.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because it is, to see someone sitting in his vehicle freezing to death. I'd rather see you sitting in here having a hot coffee and staying warm than sitting in your vehicle and having to take you out the next morning with a toe tag on your toe.
When I walked a lot of the beats, I'd have young kids, and, I stop and I talk to them. What do you want to do? I want to get out of the neighborhood. All right, what are your plans? How are you going to get out of the neighborhood? And believe it or not, I worked with a lot of Marine Corps recruiters, and I would send them to the recruiter. I says, you want to get out, and you want to have your college paid for, and you want to get paid? Why don't you join up? And a lot of these kids I would send into the military. Some of them did go to the Marine Corps. Some of them went into Army or Navy. But, you point them in a direction. In a lot of ways, you can be like a guidance counselor. 95% of what cops do is the same thing a psychiatrist would do. Family counseling is 95% of what the job is. It's not going out there and knocking heads together. It's not looking for someone to shoot. That's the last thing you want to do.
I had a young man ask me a question. He saw a police car go past me, Annie. We were outside because I was doing a volunteer thing, being a big brother. And he looked at me and said, "Hey George, how come they don't put protect and serve on the cars anymore?" Because he saw it on TV, on a TV show once. He had never seen it on actual police cars. And I didn't know how to answer him. I actually was standing there dumbfounded. I didn't know what to tell this young man. I said, I just looked at him and I said, I don't know why they don't put protect and serve on the cars anymore. And they should. To remind the community that, hey, you're out there, they're out there to do just that. That's what their job, that's what they do for their community, for their parents, their brothers, their sisters, their aunts, their uncles, their next door neighbors, and the people they don't even know yet that live in the community.
Well, Angel had written in the chat room a little bit earlier that respect is not a privilege, it is earned. I would not exactly say that is completely true. You have to have a respect for authority. And this is where I get back to the point, Curtis, that respect starts in the home. And if you have a mother and father in the home, they should be raising that child together. But respect for your parent is the first thing you should be learning. And then you should be learning respect for your teacher, your respect for authority. And a police officer is a figure of authority. If a police officer says, get out of the car and hands on the hood, you listen and you respect the authority of that officer. However, respect is also earned at the same time by an officer doing the best job possible. So it is not just... It's not, all right, what am I thinking of? It is something that should be given to authority, and a police officer is that authority. Respect the fact.
I do.
It is
That's
also
the way I was
earned.
raised to,
It can be taken
I was
away.
raised to respect authority and to respect those, over me, with more seniority that were in positions of influence. So
you like my upbringing.
You have to give respect to get respect too, And as a young person, I think all young people should start out, obeying authority, as long as it's legitimate, what's being asked of them,
Mm-hmm.
Because police have to look out for their lives too. They put their lives on the line, and in order to ensure that they go home that night, the questions they ask and the things that they ask you to do should promote, goodwill on both sides and also accomplish the mission at hand. But if you're going to go and reject what the police officer is saying right off the cuff, then that creates problems. And then you put the police in a position where he feels or she feels threatened, and then the outcome may not be the best.
Exactly. As a police officer, you have to respect the civilian. until you find yourself that there is a dangerous situation. And that point, then my authority will supersede any respect I have for you, because now I'm going to be enforcing the law. So it is a two-way street. You know, a police officer you should give respect to automatically until you find there is a reason to no longer respect that person's authority. If you have a dirty cop, then that authority will be taken away. You know,
Annie, it's like my mother always told me growing up: if you show an officer the same respect you would want yourself.
Exactly.
It's almost like the golden rule, you know.
And this is where we come back to the problem with society. This is the problem we have with liberal society. They want us to give them respect, and yet in turn they will not respect us. So, you know, it's freedom of religion, not freedom from religion. It is freedom of speech, not freedom from speech. And this is where we have the problem with the left. The left says you have to respect my choice, but I will dictate to you what your choice is. That's not a two-way street of respect. That is not following the golden rule. Do unto others as you would have others do unto you.
Do unto you, right.
And Angel saying that was my point, Annie. Thank you, Angel. But we're down to our last 17 minutes here, and let's see, what else did I have here? We had Obama at Hiroshima saying that he...
I got a question for you, Annie.
Okay, go ahead. You're faint.
I remember when a program came out with the community, for the community, by the police called PAL, and it made a big splash, but I never hear much about PAL anymore. Do you know anything about it today? Is it still around?
The Police Athletic League.
Yeah, the Police
Athletic League.
I know it was extremely big in New York City and on Long Island, New York, when I was living up there. I do know they have something going on in my community. You'd have to probably check with your local police department to find out if there is a PALS. That is a good question. That's a good question.
Way to help young people.
I know just about every law enforcement agency across the United States, not all of them, but a vast majority of them, as I recall, have the DARE program, and I think what had happened was, because I agree with you, Annie. PAL was very big in New York City and in Manhattan, the 5 boroughs, and so forth, and it was fairly big in Westchester County, where I'm from originally, but it has faded.
Yeah,
it faded away because, and replacing it was the DARE program, and even that's starting to fade away. And I shudder to think, where children are going, where children will get the lessons about the dangers of drugs and be able to do the things that PAL brought the children together for. I mean, I remember growing up, PAL was, it was huge, and I grew up in the 70s. My grandmother lived in Brooklyn. And the Police Athletic League was pretty heavy in her neighborhood, and my grandmother took me to the precinct to meet with the representative for PAL in that precinct, and I was only going to be there for the summer. But you want to know something? It was the greatest experience I ever had. It really was. I'd love to know why these programs are fading into the sunset. They shouldn't.
Well, how often do you see kids outside playing? That is a huge question. You don't. They've got their little smart devices that they're constantly on, texting or playing games. I mean, I was sitting in motor vehicles, and I'm looking around at all these people, and they're playing like Angry Birds or Warcraft or whatever the games are, or they're texting. And no one is sitting and talking to the person next to them. And this is the problem. We have become so technologically advanced that we are not talking to each other. I mean, when was the last time you go into a restaurant and you don't see half the people there texting or playing a game? Meanwhile, they're sitting across from the table eating with someone else, but they're not talking to each other.
When I go into a restaurant
all the time.
Annie, I'm going to tell you something. I must be the oddball around here then, because I have a smartphone that I carry with me because, it's my cell phone. And yes, I have apps in it, but the apps I have in it, I chose as an aid to my broadcasting ability. But here's the thing. The second I sit down in a restaurant to eat dinner or have lunch with a friend or a family member, I turn the phone off. I literally turn my phone off because I'm not there to text back and forth with somebody, go on Facebook and Facebook back and forth with somebody. No, I'm there to socialize with the people I'm sitting at the same table with, because that's something I always did before the smartphone ever materialized. So these young people today need to be given that interaction back. They need to take away. You know what, parents? And I say this all in sincerity. Parents, take the damn cell phone away from your kids. The tablet away from your kids. Get them active in something positive.
Yeah, and like I said, when was the last time you saw kids actually outside playing?
Not in my neighborhood.
You used to always see someone having a touch or tag football in the front yard, or basketball or something going on.
Softball.
Yeah, T-ball. You don't see
Stickball
that.
was big in my neighborhood back in the day.
You go past.
Don't see that anymore either.
You go past the parks in the local neighborhood, and the parks are empty. You don't see anyone on the swing sets or the monkey bars or the seesaw or whatever is out there. You don't see kids out in parks playing. Everyone has got their face buried in their smart device. And I got to admit, I can be guilty of that at times, because at night I sit down in my Archie Bunker chair and I've got my laptop going. Most of the time I'm doing work notes for the next upcoming show, or setting up the show page, or doing whatever. Or if I'm working on some Tea Party business, or doing something for the local GOP. But I'm working. I'm not playing games. There's a difference here, where I'm expanding my mind and expanding my reach of activism, expanding my voice. But
right.
This is not what you're not
Where a smartphone is a tool for you and Curtis and myself and many of your listeners. A smartphone is a tool for our productivity in what we do. But you see, with young people, a cell phone or a smartphone becomes just another video game, just another distraction, just another reason not to have human contact or interaction. So at the end of the day, what they're looking at when their battery goes dead and they got to put it on the charger, they're sitting there fidgeting and nervous because they have nothing else to do. They feel bored. If parents encourage their kids to get off their butts and actually go outside and play games, with a basketball, a football, a stickball. For God's sake, I remember growing up, we used to take the old broom handles with tennis balls and play stickball.
Well, this is
You ever
the
see
problem
that
we have.
Brady?
No, and because we are now so buried into our smart devices, the number of people that are getting married has dropped. The number of people that are staying married have dropped. The number of people between the age of 18 and 35 that live at home with mommy or daddy has increased. The society is going backwards. We're no longer being the Americans that are self-reliant, that are independent. We have become so interdependent because of welfare, Section 8 housing, free iPhones, whatever is out there. Let government take care of me. Let mommy and daddy continue to take care of me. And I'm going to bury myself in my smart device. I don't have to deal with other people anymore. Is this what our society has come to? Or can we do things like Randy was saying, getting involved with something like Angel Shields or some other organization to bring people together, to have the conversation, to sit down face to face and understand the local cop or the local veteran, or even showing up at a senior citizen home and sitting down reading to a senior citizen, or letting them talk to you about their life because maybe they don't have a visitor, or even going to a hospital and volunteering as a candy striper or as a receptionist or whatever. We're not interacting with our fellow man the way we should be. We shouldn't have government take care of us. It used to be the charities, the private charities that took care of the poor, the sick, the needy.
Look at what Bernie Sanders wants to do if he, by some stupid miracle, were to become president, which he's not, thankfully. He wants to introduce free tuition, free homes, free this, free that, all free stuff. But you know what?
But
people that take advantage of those programs, you know what they forget? What they forget most of all? It is the taxpayers' taxes that go up, 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 and it is the taxpayers who are paying the bill.
And then the taxpayer ends up finding the bill is so expensive that it's no longer worth it to own that home, that property, that business. It will be the taxpayer. They'll say, all right, fine. I'm not going to live in a home that I own. I'll live in one that rent. And then I'll ask government to subsidize that rent. Again, who's the taxpayer? The only taxpayer in the end will be the 1%ers. Oh, isn't that what we intended from the beginning? And everyone else becomes the poor, the needy, the ones that have to get the entitlement programs in order to survive? That's not what America's about. That is not what America's about. Entitlement programs have to be reformed. And I'm not talking about Social Security, and I'm not talking about Medicare, because those are not entitlement programs. If you're talking about Social Security insurance, that people that never paid into Social Security gets, that's an entitlement. But the Social Security I spent a lifetime paying into, that is my money. The Medicare I get, I pay a monthly premium for that. And I paid a lifetime into it. That is what I worked for.
Exactly.
Welfare is an entitlement that has to be reformed. It should be welfare to work.
Exactly.
Section 8 housing.
I worked and paid into the system for over 22 years of my life. And when I ended up where I couldn't work anymore, when my doctors told me, you're done working, you will never be able to go back. First of all, I was in shock because I wanted to work. I loved working. You know, I loved working, especially working in the community. But when I was told I had to stop working for the rest of my life, you know, I didn't know what else to do. But I paid into the system, like you and a lot of other people have paid into the system. And when it was and because I needed it at the time and still do, it's there for me because I paid all those tax dollars.
Mm-hmm. And
you know what? The people that are getting it for free, you know, the illegal aliens that are coming into this country and being handed it to on a silver freaking platter, I'm sorry. I didn't bust my ass for over 22 years. You didn't bust your butt for 10 years. Look, tally up every single American who's worked hard all of their lives, paying into the system, only to have it handed to some person from Mexico who came here illegally.
All right, George, we got to wind it down because we've got only 5 minutes left, and I got to set us up. All right, what we got coming up? Curtis, oh, yeah. On Tuesday, we'll be back with John Briers, a Concerned Veterans for America, and Star Parker of Urban Cure. So we got a great show coming up next week, Curtis.
It sounds great, and I'm looking forward to especially hearing Star Parker. I've heard so much about her.
Oh, she's fun. She's been on the show before. And then that following Friday, next week, we'll have Bill Bean. He's an author, a blogger, an activist, and Tim Selty, who has several different websites that are up there organizing the conservative community. So we're going to have some great guests coming up. I know Doug Briney is coming back on because he's got a new album out. And Chet Nagel is going to be joining us also. Chet is always a blast to have on. So we got some great shows coming up. This is Memorial Weekend, and I do want to say, please remember what Memorial Weekend is about. It is honoring the fallen men and women on the battlefield, the men and women of our military that fought to protect our rights, our freedoms, and our liberties. So as you enjoy the Memorial Day weekend, remember the debt that we owe to these men and women, and have a happy, safe, and healthy one. Until then, I say good night and God bless. We end our show with The Face of the New Democracy by the Dirty Uncles. Sit back and enjoy and have a great evening.
If you like your health care plan, you'll be able to keep your health care plan. Health care plan. Health care plan.
Breaking your back, we're gonna redistribute when we make our big tax. Hey, sit back down, don't be a jerk, cause none deserve it better than the ones who won't work. We're gonna throw away what our forefathers wrote. Use your hard-earned money just to buy a new boat. Welcome to the place. Welcome to the place of the left hypocrisy. Little peak houses for you and me. Got a pen and telephone to Bob, that's all you lost. Political correctness will replace the Bill of Rights. Support religious freedom, bless you, pray to Jesus Christ. The presence in our pockets, cause there's no other free. You cannot make a move now that the NSA can see. Don't expect equality, respect for fair play. The IRS will target those who vote the wrong way. Welcome to the place. Welcome to the place of the left hypocrisy.
This is the most transparent administration in history. Not even a smidgen of corruption.
Fact is, we had 4 dead Americans. What difference at this point does it make?
If you've got a business, you didn't build that.